Welcome, welcome, and welcome. This is the Mindy, My Creative Business podcast. I am your host, Ron, ironically, Jr.
And I am your host, Shy Speaks. And this is the #1 podcast for creative entrepreneurs to gain strategy, structure, and self-development all in one place. So if you are a creative entrepreneur, creative entrepreneur, you are in the right place.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. So this is our live episode where we recap the season. We did that in season 1. This is the end of season 2, where we're recapping it and just kind of giving you some highlights and some takeaways from this. So if you are watching us live on any of the platforms, please join us. This is not just, we just don't want you to receive. We want you to be a part of it. Put any questions or comments in the chat. If we're able to see them, we will respond to them. Live here on the show. If you're not able to do it live, if you're watching a replay or listening to the replay, please email us. You can go to our website, mmcbpodcast.com. Leave us a comment there. Let us know your thoughts, feelings, and all those things, and we will get back to you. Okay? So on that note, let's dive into this episode. What is this, episode 16?
Episode 16. Yes. Now, before we go any further into talking about episode 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15, which were all a part of season 2, which were fire, and we're going to give you some highlights on why we think that. I got to first acknowledge that we are on episode number 16. They said the average podcast don't last beyond, I think, is it 6 episodes?
6 episodes. That's it.
16?
6, we in there. We 10 past the average. So
man,
we in this, boy.
Yeah, I just had to put that out there.
No. And listen, this is the MMCB podcast, the #1 podcast for creativepreneurs to gain strategy, structure, and self-development. So
just put it out there again. Again, if you're tuning in live, we are excited to have you. Please drop us a comment. We're going to respond to you live right here in the episode. And shout out to everybody who are not live right now. You're listening to this on the replay. We love you. We have some ways for you to get in touch with us as well. But let's get into episode number 9. You ready?
I'm ready. Let's get it. So, so the first episode that we started off episode 9 with this season, we were talking about funding. So once again, we encourage you go watch that episode if you didn't. So when we're talking about funding and whatnot, Shy, what was the takeaway for you when we was talking about that episode?
Okay, so let me just say, I feel like the podcast is getting better each season. Season 1 was good. It had a lot of good topics, but season 2, the fact that we got into funding at all is very important. A lot of times people are bootstrapping it to death, especially when you're a new entrepreneur, didn't come from entrepreneurship world. And so to learn about like funding and to have that even a part of the season is like something that I wish I had when I was in my newly to my entrepreneurial journey. So with that being said, shout out to just funding period. But funding when it comes to telling people that there is a such thing as grants that exist. I would say like there are national grants that exist, but there's also business credit that exists, right? That you can tap into. Both of those are on the national level. So I mean, of course, you can tap into some business credit that may not be on a national level, but most of the time it is. You're going to be going with your major banks. You're going to be looking out for these bigger organizations who are trying to give back to small businesses, that is you, and creative entrepreneurs. So that, to me, just sharing the fact that, hey, I mean, I don't have to be some big behemoth to have like business credit for my company. I can have that. And we unpacked how to do that in this episode. And we talked about the fact that there are national grants that exist. You can literally go type in creative entrepreneur, national grants, or national grants for creatives or artists, and something will pop up. I feel like that right there alone was worth the tea, because what if you listen to this podcast, you go listen to what we're saying, and you go in and get like one grant that's worth $10,000. All you did was listen to our podcast episode, right? Investing in yourself by listening to this. Next thing you know, got $10,000. I'm just saying. I think it's valuable.
Yeah, no. I know for me, one of the things that stood out was, like you said, like locally, right? So whatever city you live in, whatever state you live in, right, that there's local grants and local foundations that are looking to give people like you money, right? There's not, listen, I'm telling you, like they're trying to give it away. They don't want to have to give it back to whoever gave it to them. They're trying to get it into your hands. So to be able to, like you said, Google is our friend, right? Be able to Google local foundations, right? Whatever state you're in, go to your state and say, okay, what opportunities are there for creatives? What opportunities are there for entrepreneurs? Then what opportunities are there for creative entrepreneurs? So it's like really, it's 3 pools that you can be looking at, because once again, if you're a creative, you need to be looking at yourself as an entrepreneur. So yes, if you got your stuff together and you're an entrepreneur, funds for entrepreneurship. If you're creative, which you are, because you listen to this show, it's funds just for creative projects, right? And then specifically, there's funds for creative entrepreneurs specifically. So it's like, it's no excuse. It's just that you just don't know. But because you've been listening to the podcast, because you're going back and listening to episode 9, you're like, oh, you're learning, like, oh, there's money out there. Like I can get money to put in my business that I don't got to make no sales. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's huge. That's huge.
Yeah, that's huge. And then when you talk about local grants, I would even still piggyback and say that there is some business credit that's available to you on the local level. So that is going and creating relationships with your local community bank, right?
Yep.
So not the big behemoth, your what do you call them?
Like credit unions.
Credit union. There we go. That was the word. Your local credit unions, or there's some local banks.
Yep.
Create that relationship, make sure that they specialize in both personal and business, and then there is a way for you to tap into some business credit for your business. And we talked about how business credit works and how it doesn't work. So again, you want to go check out the episode, but that's really important. Is there another one we want to give them for funding?
Yeah, like one thing that stood out, I think this might have been our first bullet for that episode, is just like, don't be so quick to poo-poo on your job, right? Don't be so quick to leave it. Don't be so quick to badmouth it, because your job really is your first investor, right? If you are wise, right, you're utilizing your discretionary funds from your job. You're paying your bills, but it's like, look, I got this creative vision. I got this business that I want to do. So you're taking that extra funding from your job, and you should be investing that into your business, into your company, into your vision. So yeah, that was a big takeaway, because I tell all my clients that, like, wait a minute, I know you tired of your job. I know you're trying to leave it, but let's utilize this money that we got, because this sure thing money coming in right now to invest in this, opposed to stepping out here and now, you know what I'm saying? Nah, that you didn't took away your footing. Like, no, utilize your job as your first investor.
Yeah, very important. And again, when we say funding, we're talking about bringing funds into your business that doesn't necessarily have to do with you making a sale.
Exactly.
Right. Obviously, if you're in business, you should be making a sale of some sort, right? You're selling something, you're providing a product or a service. And we're always thinking about, how can I make more sales? How can I make more sales? But there is way to get more income in your business through funding, these funding sources that we're talking about. Grants brought an influx of funds in. Business credit, you had brought some funds in that you can utilize. Of course, you have to pay that back. And then, of course, the one that Ron talked about just now, which is you being your very own first investor. You, instead of you looking for somebody else to invest, you become the first investor, save some money, and drop a bag inside of your business. If you do that, I believe that other people will follow suit, and you can tap into some of those other investors. But you really want to go check out episode number 9. Moving right along to episode number 10. Let's go.
10. And listen, number 10 was one of my favorite episodes, right? So we interviewed Sierra Say. She is a copywriting expert from my city, right? Hailing from Detroit, right? But she works with some of the biggest coaches in this coaching space, right? So if you know any business coaches like your David Shans, your Marquell Russells, your E.T., the hip hop preacher, she's worked with them, and just kind of hearing her story on how she was able to work with them and how she was able to utilize her gift and talent and skill for copywriting, right, was just great just to kind of hear that. So we want to kind of just bring out some of those highlights within that episode. So Shai, for you, what was some of the highlights that she discussed in that episode?
Ooh, okay. So to me, let me just say this, and I told her in person, Sierra is the business. Okay. So she dropped so many gems that wasn't even pertaining to copywriting. Like she was talking about copywriting, dropping a lot of gems about that. And even in that, she was just telling you stuff about business, period. Just give different plays that you can run, even if you're not a copywriter or writer at all. Like I'm telling you. So my number one thing I like that she was talking about was she said that she um got her start in business by being a part of a mentorship program. Like she was there actually going to go be a part of a community of entrepreneurs so she can learn, network, and then of course learn from the person who's leading the community. And in doing so, she wound up seeing some weaknesses, and she was like, she spotted out, hey, there's something, this could be better right here, or hey, if you did this probably would be more effective, or whatever, or could increase effectiveness, because I know what you're doing is already effective. Very respectful in how she approached it. And then she just didn't point out a problem. She pointed out the solution, and she was like, she said, I could do it for you, right? And she did it, and they were like, oh, that was fire. And the next thing you know, that she did it again and again, and they wanted to bring her on, and they hired her. And this is how she gets her start into the world of business. That's important because what we learned in season 1 is oftentimes people gave you a little sample first. You got to give people a sample of what you're able to do, and then they'll be willing to pay you for it. So I just thought that was pretty cool when it came to writing. If somebody has something going on and you're on their email list, and maybe you like, oh, if it had been worded just like that, that probably would have got me to click on it, or that probably would have got me to sell it. How about you rewrite it, send it back to them, and help the person out just for the sake of helping? Who knows what can come out of it?
Yeah. No, that stood out when, like I said, she was in these environments for her personal development, for her self-development, for her. It wasn't she wasn't trying to become a better copywriter, right? She wasn't trying to develop her writing skills. She was like, listen, I know that I need certain skills within myself so that I can grow and function in this business world that I don't know, right? So that stood out as like, yeah, I'm, me, I'm very big on that whole, okay, you need to personal develop. That's why we say strategy, structure, but self-development is huge. So she was in that self-development bag and created herself opportunities to grow her business, not even from a self-development, but from a financial. Like she saw a problem that needed to be fixed and was like, yo, I got the solution to it. Here, this is what I can do for you. And she didn't go into the environment trying to do that. She was going into it because she wanted to be better.
Just wanted to be better. Wow. So, now, speaking of being better, if you're watching this and you are a writer or a copywriter or want to do copywriting, journalism, any of that type of thing, then I want to drop a gem that she talked about copywriting. And so, because we asked her, how do you know that your copywriting, you writing messaging and helping businesses with their messaging is effective? Like, because that's something that's so like, it's not the same as like, hey, you just sold, I don't know, like you just marketing. I ran this ad for you, and because of this ad, there were 10,000 people that saw it or whatever. How do you know that your messaging is working? How do you track that? And it was very, I don't know, I thought it was a very unique perspective on that, and very effective for copywriters. She said she looks at the fact that one of the things, of course, is there's the importance of attracting clients, but then there's also importance of converting the clients that you attract, and then of course retaining the clients. Right. That's for any business. You need to be able to attract people, convert people who you attracted to come see you, like, hey, I'm looking, but how do I convert you into a sale? And then how do I retain you? So she applied that same model to herself as a writer, and she says, I'll know that my copywriting is effective if what I write, let's say I go onto someone's website and I update their messaging, add some creativity to it, add some storytelling into it, make sure I'm speaking from this person's voice, which is super fire to be able to do that. That's a whole nother gem that she dropped on even how that goes. But if I'm able to do that, and from that page, instead of them just getting 1,000 website visitors that just click and come on and go off, you went from 1,000 website visitors to 1,000 people who actually clicked on the button to take them to take on whatever you are offering, right? So click here for learn more, click here to buy, or click here. So now I notice that whatever I'm saying is driving them from just being a website visitor, they're now being converted into a prospect. That's how I know I'm effective. That was one thing. And then she talked about retaining clients, right? You remember that part, Ron?
No, I remember that. You know what I'm saying? She just talked about, just her process and what she goes to, to retain them. I forget the specifics on what she's saying, but just that's a huge part of this any business model. It's one thing to get that customer in the door, but it's another thing to, okay, how can I retain them? And she definitely dropped some jewels and shared some things. Go ahead.
One of the things she dropped, I'm gonna give you one. You got to go back and watch it. She talked about continuing to do what she did when she first came in, continue to being a person that brings solutions, right? Just checking in, being like generally helpful to somebody's business, even beyond copywriting, right? Just overall in the realm of like marketing, because that's what that ties into as well. If there's something that she sees that needs to be done, she either makes a suggestion or she does it. But that was just one gem. But the other thing that she said about retaining clients, again, looking at herself, how do I know my copywriting is effective? Is if people are continuing to retain me on their services. I'll know, right? Because if somebody brings me in to write email messaging copy, they're going to do an email series. They're going to launch out this new product, and there's going to be email after email to kind of get people into this product. And if for whatever reason it didn't work, they're not going to retain me as the copywriter.
Right.
But they'll know that if they had $100,000 the last time they did a launch, but with my writing they did $150,000, they're gonna know like, oh, she just brought us $50,000 in, and they're gonna renew the contract with me. So she just pays attention to it's effective if people are staying with me, and that's something that applies to every business, every creative entrepreneur. Like, you'll know if you're effective. Are your people being retained? If they're not sticking with you, then something is off.
That's right. So all right. So that's episode 10 and for season 2 with Sierra Say. So let's go ahead and go to the next episode, right? So the next episode, we had a chance to interview BJ Thompson, which is one of the co-founders of the 116 movement. So if anybody's familiar with CHH, when Christian hip hop, you're familiar with the 116 movement with Lecrae and right. So he was one of the founders of that, right? He was one of the co-founders of that movement. So we had a chance to interview him, and he was just talking about how he was able to take this small, right, this desire of impacting 40 people at a time, but now it's this global impact. So we delved into that as far as from a personal standpoint first, right? And then he gave us some of the behind the scenes business models and things like that. But no, that was a great episode to go back and to listen to. So one of the things that he talked about, right, in that piece and going from 40 people at a time to reaching millions is looking inward to understand strengths and weaknesses, right? Identifying not only your role, but also identifying your partners or the people that you're working with role. So I know you want to elaborate a little bit on that, Ms. Shai, because I know that jumped out and stood out to you as well when we was interviewing.
It did, because we're on here talking about creating a global movement. And oftentimes it's like, hey, I'm going to listen to this. I'm a creative entrepreneur. I'm the person that wants to help people push their movement. I want to hear him say something about how to go to the masses. How do I go to the nations? And he said, it starts by looking inward at your own strengths and seeing how you're wired, so you'll know what type of partners you need to take on, and you can better respect their role because you'll see how they're wired different from you. Them being wired different is great because it creates a great leadership team. It kind of fills all of the gaps. So he, for example, is the type of person, I just want to be effective with the 15 people in front of me. I want the 15 people in front of me to feel like this is fire. This is amazing. They want more of it. They can't get enough of it. And I just want them to have they just want them to feel like they belong. That's his bread and butter, is to have interpersonal impact. And you need that part for a global movement. But he also teamed up with someone who, a part of the movement as well, cares about like reaching more people, right? I don't want just the 15 people to be on fire. We need to reach 30 and then 45 and then 90, right? You see what I did there with my exponentials? You see, man? But ultimately, I thought that was really cool because he was saying this other person, you could look at them and be like, all they care about is being popular. And now, because that's wired differently from you, it's different from you, but it doesn't make it wrong. And
Right.
again, that's what's important about taking that interpersonal look, because you making it fire for them on the interpersonal level will not take it global, right? That person has to want to take that reach and that leap and all that kind of stuff. And so I don't know, I just thought that part was fire. And so if you're a person who want to be a global movement maker, right? You want to create a nonprofit or a social entrepreneur, kind of a social entrepreneur type of company, then you really want to say, okay, if I want to take this global, how is the head of our leadership team? What is it like? Do we have enough people who are filling all the gaps, or me and this other person, or just me, that's making sure we assess the strengths and the weakness internally? That was fire.
No, definitely. And he elaborated on that as well, as far as just the important stuff, surrounding yourself with people that can inspire, just to kind of help grow and things like that. So yeah, go check out that episode. That was a phenomenal episode. And BJ, he's a good guy. I definitely would love to have him back on the show.
Yeah.
So we can, pull back some more of the layers, because like I said, him doing multifaceted things, right? Where we started with the movement, but now we got this challenge, and then I got this book, and just those different things. So once again,
hold on. I gotta give him this. I gotta give him this. This is a highlight, because we talked about him being a global movement starter, but that he hasn't been in that particular capacity for a while.
Right.
If you look at him now, he's an author. He's a speaker. He's a coach. He curates events. He's built a community. He has a challenge that's all about like life coaching and up leveling people's life, mind, body, soul, spirit, etc. Right? There are people who want to know the game from him. Like, how do I monetize my desire to like enrich people on life level, which is what he was all about, even with the global impact movement. He said something that was super cool. He said, get a consultant to review your business and identify the gaps, right?
Yeah.
So then you'll know what to go in and address. Get the consultant. Like, people want to be a life coach, but they're not willing to have life coaches or get some kind of consultant. Get you a consultant, let them peek into your business, let them tell you what you're missing, and then you go contract people who can fill those things in. If you're in the life coach space and you're that kind of creative entrepreneur, you definitely want to go watch that episode. I'm telling you, it's gems all in that. Okay, we can keep it moving. Episode number 12.
All right. So episode number 12 was the episode where we gave away something free, right? So that's why I gotta go back and check out that episode, because we gave you a tool and a resource that you can use in your business, in your personal life today, to help you get closer to the goals that you want to reach, becoming a 6, 7, 8, 9 plus, however many figure earner you want to be. But it all starts with your time management, right? Once again, going back to that self-development piece is learning how to manage your time. So in that episode, not only did we talk about time management and give you tips, but we gave you our good time bundle, which is still available. You can go to mmcbpodcast.com/good time bundle, to where you'll get our 90-day productivity schedule calendar, as well as the annual output. But like I said, I don't want to butcher it, right? Because the tools that we gave, one was a tool that I highlight, right? That's the 90-day planner. And it's just it just breaks down your goals that you want to reach from a annual standpoint, but then it breaks them down quarterly, right? Because we know 90 days, that's 3 months, so that's a quarter, right? I know that's my math is off. That's a quarter?
Right. Yeah, that's a quarter. You're right. So you got 90 days, that's a quarter, and you're looking at it in the quarter, and then you break it down within those three months in the quarter, is what you're saying.
You're breaking it down to like so you get an overall scope, but then you're breaking it down, 90 days, monthly, weekly, and things like that. So yeah, that episode, go back, check that out. But then Shy hit y'all over the head with another tool and resource. Tell them about the tool and resource that you hit them with.
Okay, so there's an annual visual map. Annual visual map. You want to look at your company, right? And look at all the ways you make revenue in the company. Lay that out. And then you want to take those things and put them over in almost like it's like a project management layout, so to speak. You're looking at the entire year, January through December.
Right.
You're able to say what's going to happen in this business, like things that drive revenue. That is, you're going to have your content management. You may maybe have to create product on this day. You release this at this time. Holidays happen at this time. It's kind of hard for me to say it to you just talking. You want to go head over to mmcbpodcast.com/good time bundle and get these 2 tools. Look at them for yourselves. I'm telling you, it's nothing like me being able to sit down, pull up my annual visual map, and I can actually see, okay, we're right now in July at the top of the year, or whenever I did it, in the middle of the year, whenever I did it, I said that I should be doing this at this time. Where am I with that? And it just kind of keeps you on pace and forecasting well before you get to that 90-day that Ron was talking about. But that was and then we also not just gave you free tools, we gave you, I think it was like 14 different tips on how to manage your time as a creative entrepreneur.
Yeah, like 14 of them, 14 tips on how to manage your time plus the tools. So watch the episode and get those tips and the tools and resources. And I'm telling you, you're going to be good. So right now we are going to do what we normally do, because this is the episode, is live, but it's the episode. So we're going to pay these bills, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the remaining 3 episodes that we had in this season. All right. So
season 2 was comprised of episode number 13, 14, and 15, which was writing, branding, something with that, and like development. You stick around. You want to hear the rest of this.
Yeah. What's the irony?
It's because it's us in different color clothing. I mean, listen, we've been doing a lot of talking, and we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to make a statement as well.
Because we've seen people make statements with their athletic apparel. We've even seen people make statements as entrepreneurs. But one thing I haven't seen is somebody make a statement as a creative entrepreneur. So what we've done is we have given you an opportunity to make a statement as a creative entrepreneur.
Okay. So if they want to make sure that they're rocking that creativepreneur gear, where can they go get that?
You can go get that gear from whatstheirony.com. So we are back once again. Go get y'all some of the creativepreneur gear, right? Like show who you are. You know what I'm saying? We rock our college colors and all that stuff. Get you a creativepreneur t-shirt and rock that, so people know who you are and what you're all about. So all right, back to it, right? So we're at the second half of our season, right? So we done already talked about episodes 9 through 12. Now we want to hit you with episode 13, which is one of my favorites. I know I keep saying that, but no, this is definitely one of my favorites. I like the episode with the guests. Me and you is dope and cool. Those are my favorites, but the guests, because they bring a certain just energy and vibe, and especially it was in person too. So like I said, so that's one thing too with this season. Y'all noticed that we had some in-person episodes, and then we had some back on here on the online space. But those in-person episodes, man, they were something else. So we had the honor of interviewing Tanisha Johnson, the owner of So It Is Written, right, where she is has a self-publishing agency where she helped other people write their books, right? But not just write a book. That was her big thing. She's like, listen, I'm not just helping them write a book, right? I'm helping them to market it and brand it. I'm doing all these things with this book. And she was very big on letting us know that yes, authors are creatives. You know what I'm saying? She labeled herself the book bully, right? We didn't call her that. She called herself the book bully. But yeah, so she gave me this concept, and I've heard this before, but she linked into it a little bit on this episode where she talked about your book being your new business card. Right? Like that really was like, hold on, what? She was like, no, like, instead of just giving somebody a business card, now you're able to give them your book. And within that book, you're sharing with them your frameworks or whatever the case may be, whatever in this book, to where you can help people to like, know, and trust you. So give them that book. That's the new business card. And that can create and open up the door and opportunity and things like that. So that was something that stood out big in that interview and interviewing Tanisha. What about you, Sha?
I've just been having my head like down thinking about Tanisha's episode. I know I said it about Sierra's episode, but I'm telling y'all, Tanisha talked about being an author, but she gave you extra juice along the way. I'm telling you, everything is worth the squeeze to go back and watch that particular episode, which is episode number 13. What stood out to me the most was probably her talking about how writing a book, of course, opens up all these different streams, but writing a book can do this for you, and it can do that for you, and it can do this. She made the book sound like it was a ninja. She said books can get you into film. It could actually kickstart your career in the film industry and movies. And I was like, wait, first I was like, you're just trying to say that. But then really, when you think about it, quite a few movies are based on books.
Right.
The book came out first, right? And so what she was saying is just write the book. That's why she's willing you to write the book, because there's probably a movie inside of you. There's probably a documentary or a film or something on the other side. And oftentimes, in order to do a film or to do a movie, it's a whole budget that has to happen. There's a whole bunch of directors, photographers, lights, actors, and all that kind of stuff. But the book could be the very first thing that sparks the movement for that, brings the income for it, get you the attention of the actual director who may say, I read this book, I actually want to produce it, right? And so I just thought that was a very, very creative way to talk about, like, there are people who want to get into film and they want to get into like documentaries and movies and all that kind of stuff. I just thought it was a really cool way to get into it by using what she really believes that everybody should be able to do, and that is write at least one book.
Yeah. And just to kind of lean in on that, this reminds me of Reese Witherspoon, right? So like everybody familiar with Reese Witherspoon, she's a famous actress. She doesn't do a lot of stuff as much recently, but back in like the early 2000s, she was real big. Long story short, she has a book club. In her book club, she has thousands of readers. And in that book club, for her to promote your book in her book club, she asks the officers to sign off on the rights of their books to where her production company could turn those books into films. So then she now has the right. She turns those into films, and it's a dope business model. I'm not gonna get into it here, but that just reminded me of that. How what Tanisha was talking about is like, like your book can it's not just a book anymore, right? It's about seven. She gave us about 7 to 12 different streams of income, right? Film being one of them. If it's an informational book, it can be a conference, it can be workshops, it can be, you know what I'm saying? There's all these different things. So no, I agree with you. Like that was dope. She was, like you said, she was definitely dropping some gems and some jewels in that episode. So we encourage you to go back and watch it, because we're not doing it no justice, just giving you the highlights. You got to watch the whole thing, because she was going in. She was going in.
Right, man. And she settled the score actually on that episode, because we were wondering like what all constitute is a creative entrepreneur. Not Ron and I, but I know we as the people, general people, are like, what is it? Is an author considered a creative entrepreneur? We talked about a life coach earlier, BJ.
Right.
A global impact creator. Like, is that a creative entrepreneur?
Right,
is an author one? And she said it's official that authors are creatives. They are creative entrepreneurs. And so the score is settled. People be thinking they want to try to claim everything and every other entity. We claim the authors as creative entrepreneurs. So yeah.
Exactly. So
now, we are doing this live, and we say that we're going to hear from our community if you feel like chiming in. And I have a comment, not a question, but a guy named I am D-Walk, I believe. So D-Walk says he agrees with what we're talking about, with what Tanisha was dropping. He's experienced it himself. He said that he started by writing a poem, then creating a theme song, right? He wrote a poem about this idea. He created a theme song about the idea. And then he says, ultimately, it's like you just keep creating more intellectual property that's leaning you towards the film. He said, in other words, it's called create derivatives, right? And so the book is what he's basically saying is a derivative of the film, right? And so but the poem could be the derivative of a film. Like that's even like a shorter create, right? A book is a little bit longer to write. Write the poem, get the ideation out, turn the poem into a book, turn the book into a film, and you just keep creating and keep creating. I'm telling you, I love creativity.
No, I love it. And I appreciate him for that comment. That's what's up. No, thank you for that. All right. So then we go to our next episode. So our next episode, we had some special guests on this episode as well. right? They may
Yep.
not have been in the physical space, right? But we were able to do case studies on two of my personal creativepreneurs, right? And Steve Jobs and Walt Disney, right? We were
Yeah.
able to kind of look at them as creativepreneurs, but we were looking at it from a personal branding standpoint to a business branding standpoint. So we were able to just kind of compare and to see the contrast for these individuals who had strong personal brands, but they were able to create phenomenal just brands that didn't have to really do with their personalities or person, like they were able to, part of their character and part of things of who they are were in the business brand, but it wasn't contingent to their personal brand.
Right. Right. Yeah. So episode number 14 is what we're talking about, right? And it is personal branding versus company branding.
Mm-hmm.
And we talking about it through the lens of Steve Jobs and how a little bit of their personality may have been put into the company brand, but the company brand is still different. So let's just give you a core value of what we're talking about in that episode that I feel like is a highlight. What is a personal brand versus a company brand? A personal brand is built around a person, is built around their personality, is built around their mission, is built around their likes, interests, hobbies, right? It's built around their ethos, pretty much. Personal brand.
Right.
A company brand is built around a business's mission or the organization's mission, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the reason why that's important is because as creative entrepreneurs, you're coming into this thing, you started one business, you got a side hustle, like, that could be another company, that can be another brand. And then it's like, man, I got my own personal brand. And at some point you can kind of get overwhelmed. We've experienced it. I've seen entrepreneurs. I know Ron has experienced it being a coach, a creative strategist himself. And they'll just be like, okay, I want to do this, and then I want to do that, and I want to do this, and I'm a person, but I want this company. And you start trying to make everything match up, and it doesn't have to match up because the company could have a totally different mission than you have as a person.
Right.
Shall I give them an example?
Yes, you shall give them an example.
Okay, so let's say, for example, you are a makeup artist. You have built a personal brand around something that your talent. You now, as a makeup artist, you make money, you freelance, is what you would call a freelance artist. And then maybe you even book weddings where you're going to be doing multiple people in a wedding party. And you're not the only person that does the makeup. You have other people that come in, they do the makeup with you. You do the finishing touches. So it still has your touch on it. You got a system there. You're an entrepreneur, a makeup entrepreneur, and it's based around your personal brand, probably what colors you like, your style, and all of that. Okay, that's one thing. But let's just say you come out with a makeup line and you want it to be focused on women who are those who have sensitive skin, who can't they need the cruelty-free products. They need to be plant-based, pretty conscious and environmentally friendly, which ultimately makes it super sensitive and natural for their skin. Now, as a makeup artist, you do anybody's makeup, whether it's sensitive skin, non-sensitive skin, but your makeup line is on a mission. And it's on a mission to specifically reach those with sensitive skin, dermatology issues, et cetera, et cetera. And when they go into the store, they're looking for this particular product. Now, we understand that now because the business has a mission, it's going to be branded accordingly, right? It's going to be all those words that I just said: eco-friendly, socially conscious, sensitive, plant-based. All of those things will probably tie into what the brand looks like, what the brand feels like, and who the brand is targeted at. Right. And that doesn't necessarily have to have the same swag and style and colors and fonts and all that of your just personal brand. It just doesn't have to. You know, it probably can't in some cases. So don't feel the need to make them line up exactly, is what we were trying to get to. Like, your brand may be like this. It's weddings and it's cute and colorful and your makeup line may need to be green because it gives off nature and earth and so forth. So, let me let Ron talk about a little bit more about why we used Steve Jobs and Walt Disney to drive home these points and how it ties into customer experience and operations.
Yeah. Well, when we think about both Steve Jobs and Walt Disney, like those gentlemen, well, Disney's been gone for a long time, right? but the Walt Disney Company, right? Disney is still, it still exists. It's like he died in the 50s. We're in 2024. So long time ago.
Long time
Right.
ago.
And but it's still there based off of the brand, not the personal brand. If it was the personal brand, it would have died off with Walt. But no, because he had a business, an entity that had his own brand, it's been able to last decades, right? Same thing with Steve. He hasn't been gone as long, but he's still been gone for a long time. And we see the effects of Apple, right? Apple is still there. Apple is a billion, both of these billion-dollar companies that are still making impact today, that are still doing things based off of the mission and the core values that were put in place by these individuals, but it wasn't contingent or hinging on those individuals, right? And we still see these things in place today. We still are feeling the effects of, okay, when we go to Disney, there's a certain experience that we're going to have. There's a certain feeling that we're going to have. We're going to think a certain way when we're there, right? When we're getting ready to prep for it, right? Like just thinking about going to a Disney land, or Disney World, like your mind is already, because they were so dope in branding this. You are, it's like it's the most magical place on earth, right? That's part of their brand strategy. So you're thinking that. So now you're preparing and gearing yourself to go to the magical kingdom, right? So you're going and you're thinking, okay, I'm going to experience this. So you're prepping yourself already. So then when you get there and you see that it's clean, which was intentional, right? You get there and you see certain things and whatnot that they were very intentional about. Now it fuels what you've already been prepping, because they pre-planned it. They pre-prepped you for it. So now you're there, and it's just, all it does is just confirming everything that you already thought, because of their strong brand.
Strong brand. They thought about it in how the experience that they want you to have as a customer. They thought about in how efficient they want things to be, right? That's one of the things I like. So I'm gonna read a quote here, and it says that operations affect every touch point with the customer, from purchasing to delivery to customer service. A smooth and positive experience reinforces a positive brand image. This episode number 14 was all about branding, and we couldn't talk about branding without getting you to think about, how does things operate for you. We know how Disney operates. Very clean and fun and magical. We know how Apple operates. Very simple, technologically driven. All of that is there. But that ties into operations. I was telling Ron, I was thinking about, man, even how far away they space the tables at Apple when you walk in there, right? These are the tables we're going to order. This is how far we're going to order them. These are the light fixtures that we're going to have in here. This is how fluorescent the light is going to be. Now, technically, that's considered procurement. And people be thinking that don't have anything to do with branding, because you've been conditioned to think, well, I got a rebrand. I'm going to get a new logo. No, a rebrand may need to be some new tables, some new lights in your place. It may need to be some new. You see, we want
new process, new systems, right? Yeah, like all that's a part of branding.
Whole new system. We had a whole new invoicing system. That's part of our brand, because we want people to. We have a whole new delivery process. We don't just deliver people t-shirts and just a little package anymore. We put them in a nice box so that it open and there's paper in the box. So when they pull their product out, you see what I'm saying? All of that is a part of a rebrand. And so you can get more on that in episode number 14. Can we keep it moving, Ron?
Yes, we're gonna keep it moving. So we're going to go to our last episode, which is prior to this one. This is technically the last one, but the last episode, which is episode 15, where we're leaning into the self-development piece, right? Because once again, when we're talking about entrepreneurship, creativepreneurship, you have to become somebody in order to get the results that you want. And a lot of times the people that we currently are, we may have bits and pieces of that, but we don't have it in the full scope. So we would like, let's dedicate an episode on, who do I need to become in order for me to be a creativepreneur? And that's what we leaned into. So in that side, in this episode, who do I need to become? What was the highlight that stood out or jumped out at you in that conversation?
Okay. There were several things, but I want to open up with this quote for episode 15, and it's something I just heard yesterday. This is
Okay.
live off the press. As I would say, if I was in person at a live presentation, I would say, I'm giving you the exclusive, right? That's what I would do. But I was with a creative entrepreneur yesterday who is an interior design specialist, event furniture store owner, and also a singer as well, right? And so she was saying that I've just gotten to a place that I no longer care about trying to fit in so much and trying to fit into the room. She said, I'm trying to become the room. I said, ooh,
Yeah.
I'm trying to become the room.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
People say there's a song that says it keeps happening for me. Well, she said, I'm trying to be the person who it keeps happening for. Like, there's a certain type of posture that you have where you are attracting certain things. And you are, when she said, I'm trying to be the room, I'm trying to be the table that other people are able to come and eat at. I'm trying to build a table so that other people can eat instead of keep looking at that. Like, you got to become something different, right?
Yeah.
And so I love that episode. I will say my highlight was talking about taking risks
Okay.
and being resilient,
Okay.
right? Taking risk and being resilient. We
Yeah.
we leaned into that, and we unpacked what that meant,
Yeah.
what it means to be resilient. Quickly, everybody talks about you got to do this and all these different strategies and all these different tools, and you get all this information. You can go to this mastermind, you can go to this conference, you can read this book, and it's all this. But you and applying all of that, life is still going to happen.
Yeah.
Obstacles are still going to come, and you
Yes.
have to have resilience. And I don't think we do enough talking about that. You have to have this whatever it takes mindset. And then we talked about taking risk, because ultimately it is how you get to the next step. Like, if you're going from a small brick and mortar maybe restaurant, and you want to like level up to the bigger store or maybe to 2 stores, it's going to be risky, right? And so you have to be willing to do that. And I think I just feel like sometimes we try to be risk averse, especially if we were like just jumped out of the job into the
Yeah.
entrepreneurial world. You're like, I don't want to, but that's all about it. Which is, I know Ron talked earlier in this episode about, don't be so quick to leave your job. Don't be quick to leave it. But at some point, when you have some ducks in the row that need to be in the row, you're going to have to step out and take that risk. Yeah, you're not going to have that same old paycheck. But that's the good thing, is that you might have a bigger paycheck on the other side. So talking about that, and we talked about it beyond how I'm talking about it right now. You have to watch the episode to really get the juice of it. But those are the things that stood out to me. How about you, Ron?
Yeah. So for me, some of the things that stood out that episode was the importance of just having a vision and being intentional, right? Like, that was like a few years ago when I started to really lean into things that are manifesting now. That word was intentional. Be intentional. Like, I always had the vision, but until I started to be intentional and say, okay, this is what I'm doing. So as a result of this is what I'm doing, and this is because this is the result I want. I'm doing these things. I'm not doing these things, but it was all intentional. It wasn't just happenstance. And I'm dealing with a lot of creators and even creators of faith, right? Because we have a lot of, creators of faith in our community as well. I see them leave a lot of things to chance. Well, if it que sera, what will be. And it's like, nah, there has to be a level of intentionality where, okay, no, this is what I'm intending to do because these are the results that I want. So that really stood out to me. And then, I'll leave it there. Like I said, go watch the episode. There's more, because we definitely gave you some more things on what to be mindful of, or some character traits that you have to develop to be this entrepreneur, to be this creativepreneur that's doing these great things that we know that you can do, that you want to do, because that's why you listen to the podcast, or that's why you're watching the podcast. So yeah, go check that episode out. But don't that was the main things that stood out. I'll leave it there.
Yeah, man. Okay, so these are the things that stood out to us, but what we really want to know is what stands out to you. And the only way for you to tell us that is for you to go pick one of the episodes that you feel like resonates with you and go watch it.
Yep.
I'm gonna run back through them. We had episode number 9, we talked about funding. Episode number 10, that was copywriting, the secrets of copywriting. Episode number 11 was about building global movements, and building a business as a life coach. If you want to know the business of a life coach, you got to go check it out with BJ Thompson. Episode number 12, we talked about time management, aka what we call good time. And we gave you the good time bundle, mmcbpodcast.com/good time bundle. We're giving you some freebies with that episode. If you know you're that entrepreneur that can't get organized because you can't get your time together, you definitely want to go check out those 14 tips. Episode number 13 was writing to riches. It was specifically aimed at authors. But again, Tanisha dropped a lot of extra nuggets that didn't have to do with books. So you want to check that out. Episode number 14 was about branding, individual brand versus a business brand, a personal brand versus a company brand. What's the difference, how they tie in, and then how they tie into what you traditionally know as your visual brand. Episode number 15 was who do you need to become? You are creative. We believe you need to become the entrepreneur. Become the creative entrepreneur that we know you to be. And maybe you're already that, but you need to continue to develop. So you probably want to go watch that episode. Episode 9 through 15 has a lot of goodies. Don't just pick one, too. Watch another one.
Yeah, like, listen, binge watch the entire season, right? Because it's going to be something. It's going to be some inspiration and motivation in those episodes. So listen, we are going to close this out because listen, this is, we got an episode to talk about. We can go back to season 1, but we're not going to do that. We already recapped that at the end of season 1. So go back and watch that. But we just want to thank you for your time. We don't take it lightly if you're spending time listening to or watching the podcast. We thank you for that. So thank you. We also want to encourage you, be a part of the community, because I don't want you guys to miss out on season 3, right? We're closing out season 2. We normally take a little pause and then we come and hit season 3. When season 2 jumped off, people were contacting me, asking me, yo, where's season 2? I haven't seen it. And it was already going, but they weren't a part of the creatives corner, right? Which is our community for creativepreneurs like yourself, where we're going to give you additional information, but we also have a newsletter and we let you know when the episodes drop. Right, we're giving you highlights and bullet points from those episodes. So be a part of that community. You can go to mmcbpodcast.com. That's mmcbpodcast.com to become a part of the Creators Corner community, where there's a newsletter and a Facebook group to where you're going to be surrounded by other creative entrepreneurs like yourself. Okay, so do that. Yes, ma'am.
Another cool thing about being a part of the Creators Corner community is that in case you're not able to tune into the live podcast, right? Because we have all the ones that we film and we post those podcasts. But if you want to be a part of the live one and you're like, man, I didn't get a chance to get my question in, you can get your question because you will easily have access to us via email when you're in a community, via the Facebook group. And you can say, hey, I won't be able to be on the podcast, but here's a question I think should be answered on the episode. If y'all could touch on that, I would greatly appreciate it. And myself or Ron will chime into it. And if the question is too good and too juicy, we may even invite somebody to hop on the live because of your question. So you really want to join the Creators Corner community and get a part of that group of like-minded creative entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah. And once again, you never know, your question may turn into an episode, right? Like I said, me and Shy, we go through and we got a list of episodes, but hey, your question might be that dope. We're like, no, the community need this. So chime in. Like I said, once again, this mmcbpodcast.com, mmcbpodcast.com to be a part of that. So on that, Shy, I think
we can take us away. So
yeah,
we thank you for listening. I also want to thank the people who not just listened live, but they actually commented live. I seen you guys, even if you didn't have a question, you dropped a comment. We saw it. We appreciate it. We're going to look at them again, and Ron and I will figure out how to incorporate them. But as we always do with every episode, we want to end the episode with a mantra or with a saying, that the affirmation, if you will, so that we can, internalize everything that the MMCB podcast is all about. So what I want you to do is I want you to repeat after me. I want everybody to repeat after me. Y'all ready? Okay, say it out loud. All it takes is intention, consistency, and laser focus to mind my creative business.
And on that note, we will see y'all season 3. Peace.